Good evening. I'm uploading. Just made some hot food. Charge this camcorder. Let's close this one. So let's finish reading. It's almost 10. So it's a little bit too late to reading because it makes a lot of noise. But let's do it anyway.
Severe damage to the installation in the wake of Hurricane Michael in 2018. The squadron and its aircraft were relocated to nearby Glynn AFB, although it was initially feared that several jets were lost due to storm damage. All were later repaired and flown out. The FTU and its aircraft were reassigned to the 71st Fighter Squadron at Langley AFB in 2023. As of 2014, B course students require 38 sorties to graduate, previously 43 sorties. Track 1 course pilots retraining from other aircraft, also saw a reduction in the number of sorties needed to graduate, from 19 to 12 sorties. F-22 students are first trained on the T-38 Talon trainer aircraft. Additional pilot training takes place on the F-16 because the aging T-38 is not rated to sustain higher G-forces and lacks modern avionics. Due to a lack of a modern trainer stand-in that can accurately emulate the F-22, the Air Force often uses F-22s to supplement training, which is costly as the F-22 costs almost 10 times more than the T-38 per flight hour. The upcoming T-7 Red Hawk features modern avionics that better approximate those of the F-22 and F-35. This is scheduled to enter initial operating capability in 2027, several years behind schedule. In 2014 the Air Force stood up the 2nd Fighter Training Squadron at Tyndall AFB, which was equipped with T-38s to serve as adversary aircraft to reduce adversary training flights on the F-22s. To reduce operating costs and prolong the F-22s service life, some pilot training sorties are performed using flight simulators. The Advanced F-22 Weapons Instructor course at USAF Weapons School is conducted by the 433rd Weapons Squadron at Nellis AFB. Initial operational problems, edit. During the initial years of service, F-22 pilots experienced symptoms as a result of oxygen system issues that include loss of consciousness, memory loss, emotional lability and neurological changes, as well as lingering respiratory problems and a chronic cough. The issues resulted in a fatal mishap in 2010 and 4-month grounding in 2011 and subsequent altitude and distance flight restrictions. In August 2012, the DoD found that the brag valve, which inflated the pilot's vest during high G maneuvers, was defective and restricted breathing, and the ABOGS, onboard oxygen generation system, unexpectedly fluctuated oxygen levels at high G. A Raptor aeromedical working group had recommended changes in 2005 regarding oxygen supply that were unfunded but received further consideration in 2012. The F-22 CTF and 412th Aerospace Medicine Squadron eventually determined breathing restrictions as the root cause. Coughing symptoms were attributed to acceleration atelectasis from high G exposure and ABOGS delivering excessive oxygen concentration. The presence of toxins and particles in some ground crew was deemed unrelated. Modifications to the life support and oxygen systems, including the installation of an automatic backup, allowed altitude and distance restrictions to be lifted in April 2013. Operational service, edit. Following IOC and large-scale exercises, the F-22 flew its first homeland defense mission in January 2007 under Operation Noble Eagle. In November 2007, F-22s of 90th Fighter Squadron at Elmendorf AFB, Alaska, performed their first North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, interception of 2 Russian Tu-95 MS bombers. Since then, F-22s have also escorted probing Tu-160 bombers. The F-22 was first deployed overseas in February 2007 with the 27th Fighter Squadron to Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, Japan. This first overseas deployment was initially marred by problems when 6 F-22s flying from Hickam AFB, Hawaii, experienced multiple software-related system failures while crossing the international date line, 180th meridian of longitude. The aircraft returned to Hawaii by following tanker aircraft. Within 48 hours, the error was resolved and the journey resumed. Kadena would be a frequent rotation for F-22 units. They have also been involved in training exercises in South Korea, Malaysia, and the Philippines. Defense Secretary Gates initially refused to deploy F-22s to the Middle East in 2007. The type made its first deployment in the region at El Dafra Air Base in the UAE in 2009. In April 2012, F-22s have been rotating into El Dafra, less than 200 miles from Iran. In March 2013, the USAF announced that an F-22 had intercepted an Iranian F-4 Phantom II that approached within 16 miles of an MQ-1 Predator flying off the Iranian coastline. An F-22 refueling prior to combat operations in Syria, September 2014. On the 22nd of September 2014, F-22s performed the type's first combat sorties by conducting some of the opening strikes of Operation Inherent Resolve, the American-led intervention in Syria. Aircraft dropped 1,000-pound GPS-guided bombs on Islamic State targets near Tishrin-Dan. Between September 2014 and July 2015, F-22s flew 204 sorties over Syria, dropping 270 bombs at some 60 locations. Throughout their deployment, F-22s conducted close air support, CAS, and also deterred Syrian, Iranian, and Russian aircraft from attacking U.S.-backed Kurdish forces and disrupting U.S. operations in the region. F-22s also participated in the U.S. strikes that defeated pro-Assad and Russian Wagner Group paramilitary forces near Qashm in eastern Syria on the 7th of February 2018. These strikes notwithstanding, the F-22's main role in the operation was conducting intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance. The aircraft also performed missions in other regions of the Middle East. In November 2017, F-22s operating alongside B-52s bombed opium production and storage facilities in Taliban-controlled regions of Afghanistan. To increase deployment responsiveness and reduce logistical footprint in a peer or near-peer conflict, the USAF developed a deployment concept called Rapid Raptor, which involves 2 to 4 F-22s and 1 C-17 for logistical support, first proposed in 2008 by 2 F-22 pilots. The goal was for the type to be able to set up and engage in combat within 24 hours in smaller and more austere environments that would enable more dispersed and survivable disposition of forces. This concept was tested at Wake Island in 2013 and Guam in late 2014. 4 F-22s were deployed to Spangdahlem Air Base in Germany, Lars Air Base in Poland, and Ameri Air Base in Estonia in August and September 2015 to further test the concept and train with NATO allies in response to the Russian annexation of Crimea in 2014. The USAF would build on the principles of Rapid Raptor and eventually integrate it into its new operational concept called Agile Combat Employment, which shifts towards distributed operations during peer conflicts. For instance, detachments of F-22s have operated from austere airfields on Tinian and Iwo Jima during exercises. On the 4th of February, 2023, an F-22 of the 1st Fighter Wing shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon within visual range off the coast of South Carolina at an altitude of 60,000 to 65,000 feet, 20,000 m, marking the F-22's first air-to-air kill. The wreckage landed approximately 6 miles offshore and was subsequently secured by ships of the U.S. Navy and U.S. Coast Guard. F-22s shot down additional high-altitude objects near the coast of Alaska on the 10th of February and over Yukon on the 11th of February. The USAF expects to begin retiring the F-22 in the 2030s as it gets replaced by the Next Generation Air Dominance (NGAD) 6th Generation Crewed Fighter, the Boeing F-47. In May 2021, Air Force Chief of Staff Charles Q. Brown Jr. said that he envisioned a reduction in the future number of fighter fleets to 4+1, the F-22 followed by NGAD, the F-35O, the F-15E followed by F-15X, the F-16 followed by Mr. X, and the A-10. The A-10 was later dropped from the plans due that aircraft's accelerated retirement. In 2022 the Air Force requested that it be allowed to divest all but 3 of its Block 20 F-22s at Tyndall AFB. Congress denied the request to divest its 33 non-combat coded Block 20 aircraft and passed language prohibiting the divestment through FY 2026. While the Block 30/35 F-22 remains one of the USAF's top priorities and will be continually updated, the service believes the Block 20 aircraft is obsolescent and unsuitable even for training F-22 pilots and that upgrading them to Block 30/35 standards would be cost prohibitive at $3.5 billion. Variants, edit. For the technology demonstrator prototype and proposed naval version, see Lockheed YF-22. F-22 single-seat version was designated F/A-22 in early 2000s before reverting back to F-22 in 2005. 195 built, consisting of 8 test and 187 operational aircraft. F-22B. Planned 2-seat version with the same combat capabilities as the single-seat version, cancelled in 1996 to save development costs with test aircraft orders converted to F-22. Naval F-22 variant. Never formally designated. Planned carrier-borne variant /derivative for the U.S. Navy's Navy Advanced Tactical Fighter, NATF, program. Because the NATF needed lower landing speeds than the F-22 for aircraft carrier operations while still attaining Mach 2 class speeds, the design would have incorporated variable sweep wings. It would also have had expanded weapons carriage, including the AIM-152 AAM, AGM-88 HARM, and AGM-84 Harpoon. Program was cancelled in 1991 due to tightening budgets. Proposed derivatives, edit. The X-44 Manta, or multi-axis, no-tail aircraft, was a planned experimental aircraft based on the F-22 with enhanced thrust vectoring controls and no aerodynamic surface backup. The aircraft was to be solely controlled by thrust vectoring, without featuring any rudders, ailerons, or elevators. Funding for this program was halted in 2000. The F-22 was proposed in the early 2000s as a supersonic stealth regional bomber for the USAF. The design went through several iterations, and the later ones would combine an F-22 fuselage with greatly enlarged delta wings and was projected to carry up to 30 small diameter bombs to over 1,600 mi, 3,000 kilometers, about twice the combat range of the F-22. The F-22 proposals were cancelled with the 2006 Quadrennial Defense Review and subsequent developments, in lieu of a larger subsonic strategic bomber with a much greater range. This became the next generation bomber, although it would be rescoped in 2009 as the long-range strike bomber, resulting in the B-21 Raider. In August 2018, Lockheed Martin proposed an F-22 derivative to the Japan Air Self-Defense Force, JASDF, for its 5TH/6TH Generation FX program. The design, which was later also proposed to the USAF, would combine a modified F-22 airframe with enlarged wings to increase fuel capacity and combat radius to 1,200 mi, 2,200 kilometers, as well as the avionics and improved stealth coatings of the F-35. The proposal was ultimately not considered by the USAF or JASDF due to cost as well as existing export restrictions and industrial work share concerns. Operators, edit. The United States Air Force is the only operator of the F-22. As of August 2022, it has 183 aircraft in its inventory. Air Combat Command, edit. 1st Fighter Wing, Joint Base Langley Eustis, Virginia. 27th Fighter Squadron. 71st Fighter Squadron, Formal Training Unit. 94th Fighter Squadron. 49th Wing, Holloman Air Force Base, New Mexico. 7th Fighter Squadron. 8th Fighter Squadron. 53rd Wing, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. 422nd Test and Evaluation Squadron. 57th Wing, Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada. 433rd Weapons Squadron. 325th Fighter Wing, Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida. 43rd Fighter Squadron, inactivated in 2023. 95th Fighter Squadron, activated in 2013, inactivated in 2018. Pacific Air Forces, edit. 3rd Wing, Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska. 90th Fighter Squadron. 525th Fighter Squadron. 15th Wing, Highcam Air Force Base, Hawaii. 19th Fighter Squadron, Active Associate Unit. Air National Guard, edit. 154th Wing, Highcam Air Force Base, Hawaii. 199th Fighter Squadron. 192nd Fighter Wing, Joint Base Langley Eustis, Virginia. 149th Fighter Squadron, Associate Unit. Air Force Reserve Command, edit. 477th Fighter Group, Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska. 302nd Fighter Squadron, Associate Unit. Air Force Material Command, edit. 412th Test Wing, Edwards Air Force Base, California. 411th Flight Test Squadron. Accidents, edit. For accidents relating to the F-22's technology demonstrator, see Lockheed YF-22 accidents. The first F-22 crash occurred during takeoff at Nellis AFB on the 20th of December, 2004, in which the pilot ejected safely before impact. The investigation revealed that a brief interruption in power during an engine shutdown prior to flight caused a flight control system malfunction. Consequently, the aircraft design was corrected to avoid the problem. Following a brief grounding, F-22 operations resumed after a review. On the 25th of March, 2009, an EMD F-22 crashed 35 miles, 56 kilometers, northeast of Edwards AFB during a test flight, resulting in the death of Lockheed Martin test pilot David P. Cooley. An Air Force Material Command investigation found that Cooley momentarily lost consciousness during a high-G maneuver, or GLOC, then ejected when he found himself too low to recover. Cooley was killed during ejection by blunt force trauma from wind blast due to the aircraft's speed. The investigation found no design issues. On the 16th of November, 2010, an F-22 from Elmendorf AFB crashed, killing the pilot, Captain Jeffrey Haney. F-22s were restricted to flying below 25,000 feet, then grounded during the investigation. The crash was attributed to a bleed air system malfunction after an engine overheat condition was detected, shutting down the Environmental Control System, ECS, and a box. The Accident Review Board ruled Haney was to blame, as he did not react properly to engage the emergency oxygen system. Haney's widow sued Lockheed Martin, claiming equipment defects, and later reached a settlement. After the ruling, the emergency oxygen system engagement handle was redesigned and the entire system was eventually replaced by an automatic backup. On the 11th of February, 2013, the DOD's Inspector General released a report stating that the USAF had erred in blaming Haney, and that facts did not sufficiently support conclusions. The USAF stated that it stood by the ruling. On the 15th of November, 2012, an F-22 crashed to the east of Tyndall AFB during a training mission. The pilot ejected safely and no injuries were reported on the ground. The investigation determined that a chafed electrical wire ignited the fluid in a hydraulic line, causing a fire that damaged the flight controls. On the 15th of May, 2020, an F-22 from Eglin Air Force Base crashed during a routine training mission shortly after takeoff. The pilot ejected safely. The cause of the crash was attributed to a maintenance error after an aircraft wash resulting in faulty air data sensor readings. Aircraft on display, edit. 91 to 4002 Hill Air Force Base Aerospace Museum in Ogden, Utah. 91 to 4003 National Museum of the United States Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. Specifications, F-22, edit. Data from USAF, Manufacturer's Data, Aerofax, Aviation Week, Air Forces Monthly, and Journal of Electronic Defense. General characteristics. 1 crew, 1. 2 length, 62 feet 1 in, 18.92 m. 3 wingspan, 44 feet 6 in, 13.56 m. 4 height, 16 feet 8 in, 5.08 m. 5 wing area, 840 square feet, 78.04 m. 6 aspect ratio, 2.36. 7 airfoil, NACA 6 series airfoil. 8 empty weight, 43,340 pound, 19,700 kilograms. 9 gross weight, 64,840 pound, 29,410 kilograms. 10 max takeoff weight, 83,500 pound, 38,000 kilograms. 11 fuel capacity, 18,000 pound, 8,200 kilograms, internally, or 26,000 pound, 12,000 kilograms, with two 600 US gal tanks. 12 power plant, 2 Pratt & Whitney F119 PW100 augmented turbofans, 26,000 lbf, 120 kN, thrust each drive, 35,000 lbf, 160 kN, with afterburner. Performance: 1 maximum speed, Mach 2.25, 1,500 miles per hour, 1,303 kN, 2,414 kilometers per hour, at altitude. 1 Mach 1.21, 800 knots, 921 miles per hour, 1,482 kilometers per hour, at sea level. 2 Super Cruise, Mach 1.76, 1,162 miles per hour, 1,010 kN, 1,870 kilometers per hour, at altitude. 3 Range, 1,600 mi, 1,800 mi, 3,000 kilometers, or more with 2 external fuel tanks. 4 Combat Range, 416 mi, 530 mi, 850 kilometers, clean with 100 mi, 115 mi, 185 kilometers, in Super Cruise. 595 mi, 685 mi, 1,102 kilometers, clean subsonic. 715 mi, 863 mi, 1,389 kilometers, with 100 mi in Super Cruise with 2 600 US gal tanks. 5 Ferry Range, 1,714 mi, 2,000 mi, 3,220 kilometers. 6 Service Ceiling, 65,000 feet, 20,000 m. 7 G Limits, plus 9.0/3.0. 8 Wing Loading, 77.2 pound/square feet, 377 kg/m. 9 Thrust/weight, 1.08, 1.25 with loaded weight and 50% internal fuel. Armament: 1 Guns, 120mm M61A2 Vulcan rotary cannon, 480 rounds. 2 Internal weapons bays. 1 Air-to-air mission loadout. 6 AIM-120C/D AMRAAM 4 AIM-120A/B. 2 AIM-9M/X Sidewinder. 2 Air-to-ground mission loadout. 2 1,000-pound, 450 kilograms, JDAM and 2 AIM-120 or 8 250-pound, 110 kilograms, GBU-39 SDB and 2 AIM-120 or 4 250-pound GBU-39 and 4 AIM-120. 2 AIM-9. 3 Hardpoint, external. 4 underwing pylon stations can be fitted to carry weapons, each with a capacity of 5,000 pound, 2,270 kilograms, or 600 US gallon, 2,270 L, drop tanks. 4 AIM-120 AMRAAM, external. Avionics. 1 AN/APG-77 or AN/APG-77, V, 1 AESA radar, 125-150 miles, 201-241 km, against 1 m, 11 square feet, targets, estimated range, more than 250 miles, 400 kilometers, in narrow beams. 2 AN/AR-56 Missile Launch Detector, MLD. 3 Advanced Infrared Search and Track, IRST. 4 AN/ALR-94 Electronic Warfare System, 250 nautical miles, 460 kilometers, or more detection range for Radar Warning Receiver, RWR. 5 integrated CNI avionics including 1 inter-forward/intra-flight data link, IFDL, 2 MIDS JTRS, 3 link 16 forward/TIDS, 4 IFF, mode 5, 5 embedded GPS forward/INS, EGI, 6 TACAN, 7 have quick forward/Saturn, 8 SIMPGAS, 6 MJU-39 forward/40 flares for protection against IR missiles. See also, edit. 1 advanced tactical fighter. 2 aircraft in fiction F-22 Raptor.